White Orchard is known as the starting region of The Witcher 3 to most people. During the dialogue and the quest there, you get an image of what the region was like before the war, and what's happened there over the last couple of days before Geralt arrives. Let's start a long time ago. In Temeria, White Orchard was founded next to the river Ismena, which flows from the Mahakam foothills towards Lake Vizima, passing along cities like Karas and Alander on its way there. It is also located at a crossroads where the main road splits in several directions, one going to Vizima and another one going to Nilfgaard. As plenty of travelers passed along this crossroads, a village and an inn rose from the ground, as there was enough money that could be made from these travelers. Nearby land was suited for farming, as well as the nearby Vulpine Woods proved a great source of income, as many in the village worked near the sawmill. But there was one thing the village was most famous for: its orchard, as the village and the region were named after the white trees that stand in the orchard, from which they harvest fruit. The land used to belong to a noble family, called the Laval. Their line, however, ended, and a new family took over for several generations, the Verrier. The head of the family, and lord of the land, was called Ignatius Verrier. He was never the kindest ruler they could have had, yet it was better than having no lord. Ignatius had the title of being a baronet, which is slightly higher than a knight and slightly lower than a baron. He ruled over the White Orchard region from Amavet Fortress to the southeast of the village. He also had his own mansion located to the northwest side of the village. One day, a witcher on his way through White Orchard was taken prisoner, for he was expected to be behind the disappearance of the local beekeeper's son named Viti. He was held and interrogated. One of the diagrams he had on him was taken, for they suspected that to have been the weapon that he used to intimidate the boy. Sir Ignatius was waiting for a capable interrogator and torturer to arrive, so they could continue questioning the witcher named Colgrim, who was from the school of the Viper. Colgrim, however, didn't want to wait, and requested a trial by ordeal. Baronet Ignatius accepted and requested him to clear the family crypt of wraiths. Colgrim was convinced that this was an easy task, yet he never made it out of the crypt. The rumor went that the father of the missing boy had killed Colgrim by decapitation, for he didn't want to let the witcher get away with that was presumed he had done. It turned out that the witcher was innocent, for the boy was actually killed by drowners. Presumably, shortly after this, several things started to go wrong in White Orchard. The son of the baronet, named Florian, was secretly meeting with a local hunter, named Mislav. They loved each other, yet this was not something that was accepted. A stable hand named Dieter saw them and went to inform to the lord, Ignatius. He was furious and banished Mislav away from the village. Ignatius' son Florian was so upset by this that he hung himself. Ignatius didn't want the world to know what had happened, and so tried to make everyone think that his son died of apoplexy while hunting. But the rumor of the truth was out there, and some people knew about it. It was at this time, presumably just before 1250, that Tomira moved into White Orchard and befriended a woman from the village named Claire. Claire and her husband named Volkert were worried about the baronet, as he had started to drink heavily after his son's death. He also trampled fields from the local peasants while drunk without repayment, demanded to sleep with the bride of a local man named Peter on their wedding night, and killed a man named Johan for not taking his cap off sooner when he passed by. Volkert didn't want to stay near his baronet, and sent a petition of their grievances to the lords at the court in Vizima. the judge recognized their grievances and waived all their bonds and duties to the lords of White Orchard. This meant that they were allowed to strike out on their own, starting their own little village. Over the next month, they built a small village named Hovel. It wasn't much, but Claire and Volkert liked it more than any palace. They lived there in peace with the family, free from Ignatius. Yet after that first month, it was rumored that the Lord wanted to see them, make a deal, and would beg for their return. It was said that the Baronet was calmer now, and not as quick to anger about stuff. Yet something went wrong when the Baronet visited. He came with a group of armed men, and it was rumored that arguments got heated and that either Volkert or Claire mentioned Florian, the dead son of Ignatius. Volkert was stabbed to death on the spot. His wife Claire, who was wounded but still alive, was dragged to the well and hung. The precise events of that day were unknown. Yet the people knew that something bad had happened there, for soon after a noon wraith started haunting the well, forcing those from the village of White Orchard to use the river Ismena for water. As the years went on, the Baronet's estate fell into ruin, as grief seems to overtake him. There is a gap of about 20 years in which we don't know what happened near this village, but it probably wasn't much good. When Nilfgaard invaded the northern realms, some of the locals from White Orchard joined the Temerian army to fight. They drew a symbol on their shields, so they would be able to easily recognize each other. The night before the battle, a mysterious man entered White Orchard and went inside an old abandoned home, acting like it was his own home. An old woman noticed him, and he noticed her. He went up to her and asked if he could borrow her frying pan. The woman accepted. When it was almost done, another man came up to the hut and entered. Soon after, the first man left and locked the door behind him. The time for the battle came. As the two armies clashed, suddenly a black-haired woman crossed the battlefield. Folk nearby would remember her as the horsewoman of war. The local peasants of White Orchard that lived nearby, where the battle took place, fled into the woods and didn't come out until the fighting was over. The battle had no clear winner, but became rather infamous in the north for what happened there, being referred to as the Battle of White Orchard. Many lost their homes and family members. After the battle, the Nilfgaardians took over White Orchard and hanged the Baronet, Ignatius Verrier. White Orchard was now under the command of Captain Peter Saar Gvinleve. The peasants lived in fear of the Nilfgaardians, afraid of what they're going to do to them. It doesn't help that after the battle, due to other corpses in the water, the river was polluted, resulting in no source of clean water for those living in the village, as they had a truce between polluted water and going towards a well, guarded by a noon wraith. The former battlefield became infested with necrophages, who saw it as an easy meal. All this also attracted a griffin, which would make its nest in the full pine woods, and as a result, the sawmill came to a halt. The Nilfgaardians tried to deal with the beasts, yet they only made it worse. In a short time between the battle and Geralt arriving, the Nilfgaardians had set their camp in what was formerly known as the Lord's Mansion, now a ruin of what it once was. But not everyone accepts Nilfgaardian rule. Some still try to do everything they can to oppose them, trying to sabotage the soldiers from the south, one small step at a time. And that is where Geralt enters White Orchard, having just been the site of a battle with many lost homes and lives, people living in fear of Nilfgaard and a griffin on the prowl. There are a few things I've left out. They mostly have to do with events that we don't know about when they happened. 2 bridges in the region are named after women who lost either their love or never found it in the first place. And then there are some other events that happened, yet they mostly involve the conflict between Nilfgaard and the north, with camps being attacked and that kind of stuff, deserters. White Orchard has known its fair share of tragedies in the last couple of years. And you, as Geralt, can help them rebuild, so they can once again try to recover from the war. That was it for White Orchard. Till next video. Bye.